Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This episode 148, Spellbound from 1945. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too. And this episode is brought to you by the Atomic Memory Fit ski boots. Atomic Memory Fit is one of the quickest heat fitting technologies around, so you can totally personalize boots in a matter of minutes. Shout out to atomic.com.
Well, shout out to atomic.com and welcome to the show. We are now into December. This is the December 1st episode.
Oh,
we are almost
it
through
is.
this weird year. Not that next year is going to be wildly different, but hopefully better, we will see.
Hopefully better, yeah.
But Joe, extracurricular activities, we were recording this on Thanksgiving weekend. What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Nothing did Thanksgiving things. Rachel's parents are here visiting. We did our normal Thanksgiving things. I deep fried a turkey, which is always my favorite thing to do.
How'd it turn out?
Awesome. It's fucking mindless. It's like I pitch this to so many people that, like, you know, there's like worries about danger and stuff like that. Just generally, like, it is the best, fastest way to make
How long does it take? Like, do you pre-cook it or do you just like throw it like from the refrigerator right into the deep fryer?
Fridge into the deep fryer. We usually take it out. They have like some brines that you can buy or make to inject in the turkey. So you inject some brine in there of whatever kind you want. Like, it's usually like an oil and like some garlic and salt and things like that. And then you heat the oil to 350, 375, which takes a while because it's like a big ass pot, right? It's
right,
like,
yep.
And you need like this whole contraption thing. You lower the turkey in, and for a 17-pound turkey, it takes like 59 minutes in the deep fryer. So it's like nothing, dude. Like, comparatively to like an oven. And you don't have to be in the oven. So Rachel and her mom usually make all the sides inside, and we stand outside and drink beers and watch football and make sure the turkey doesn't like explode or catch on fire. It's awesome. Highly recommended.
Anything else of note in the last couple of days?
No, watch these movies. What else were we watching? Dumb TV. So just like mostly bullshitting, drinking with them, hanging out. So nothing super crazy.
And they're still there now. They're leaving tomorrow. Is that right?
I mean, like, this is all very fluid, right? Like, it's not like anybody's doing anything crazy. So, but their plan is to leave tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
Cool. I had Thanksgiving with my parents. It was good.
Nice.
Let's see. What have I been doing? I got the Lego stickers, which is good.
You showed me.
So I've been working on that. I'm a little bit more than I'm somewhere between half and 3/4 done because there's like different numbered bags in the box. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so I'm in the middle of number 3 right now. So I'm probably in the 2/3 ish ballpark done.
You sent me a picture. You have like most of the chassis stuff done.
Yeah, what I was doing this morning before we started is I'm doing like the front, like the grille and the headlights, and just sort of adding on like the base, like the core is built, but now I'm building kind of around it.
Yes.
So it's getting there. Pretty cool.
And it's cool. You see like no spoilers beforehand, but you see like as you move the tires, like the engine has like piston firing, like which is like the coolest thing, right? Like, this is so cool.
And I was saying to you last night, I put it on Twitter, that like I only just now realized why the Detroit Pistons are called the Pistons, because like their logo was always a horse or a basketball, and I always just thought it was like a horse thing or something. I just never really thought about it, but obviously Detroit, the Motor City, has that, and then the horse for horsepower. It's like, oh yeah, that all makes sense. Like, that's all very cool. It just, I never put 2 and 2 together of why the basketball team is named after cars.
And it's also like, in the age of like the Washington football team, good job picking a mascot that is just so fine, right?
Well, you remember the Wizards, the basketball team used to be the Bullets, right?
Yes.
In like one of the murder capitals of the country, right? So
yes.
Super cool. No
That's
way
what
to
I'm saying.
misconstrue that.
Yeah, like Pistons is like, that's hopefully will never be offensive, right? Like, it's just the car part. So
until we become so pro-environment to the point where cars are obsolete, they're like, we can't support cars, even cars that don't exist anymore. And then we'll have to go something green. What else have I done? I started The Queen's Gambit. I'm 2 episodes into 7.
Oh, cool. I played
very
that
good,
today.
very well paced. I also just finished the series wrapped last night as we recorded. There's an HBO series. Have your friends talked about the show How To with John Wilson?
No, not at all.
So it's a 6-episode series on HBO that is similar. Like I was telling you about Joe Parrott Talks With You, which is from Adult Swim, that's just now on HBO Max. And there's also Nathan For You, which was on Comedy Central.
Yep, which I love.
And it's this sort of awkward brand of comedy where it's sort of uncomfortable but genuinely sweet. This is in that vein, but a little different.
Okay.
I will not spoil anything, but the episode titles are the most benign. Like, let me see if I can remember all six. It's like how to put up scaffolding, how to cover your furniture, how to make the perfect risotto, how to make small
Mm.
talk, how to improve your memory, and there's one other one. It's like all just like very basic. Like these are the simplest things, and then the place that the episode winds up is radically different from what you imagine it to be. It looks like found footage, but it's all footage that this guy John Wilson has filmed on his own camera.
Okay.
And thinking about it a little bit too long gets really sad because you see him at every like social event, where he's with his friends or he's with his landlord or whatever, and he's always got a camera. I don't know why he does. I don't know why he feels compelled to do the things he does, but like he obviously has years and years and years of video footage of New York. Whatever he's talking about, he has video footage of. Like every episode starts at one place and then slowly transitions into a different topic. And then he kind of features an interview with somebody. And it's just like, oh, this is, whoa, okay. And then he kind of puts a button on it at the end.
Okay.
And it is bizarrely weird. I have one friend who like this is his favorite show of the year, and I don't feel that way, but I've never seen something like this.
Okay.
It's only 6 episodes, they're half an hour. Really, they get really weird. Like how to make small, like there'd be a thing like how to make small talk. It's like rated TV MA for like language, nudity, graphic, sexual content. It's like, wait, what the
What?
fuck? What? I don't want to spoil anything, but
Okay.
I think you'd like it. I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there because this is a show that's kind of an indie on HBO, just a very short season, genuinely unlike anything I've ever seen before. So, How To with John Wilson, 6 episodes on HBO Max or HBO Go or wherever you get fine HBO programming.
That's really cool.
I think that's it. We have a Patreon page in the show, Too Fast, TooForever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School
Mm.
Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke Hayden, Renato Di Donato, and Jessica Collins, aka Montez, for supporting us the $5 level or above.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
all
you.
so very much. If you want stickers, like we have not picked up a new Patreon, like things are going to be changing a little bit on the Patreon in the new year. We will talk about that as we get closer to it. So it's going to be even more exciting, I think. Maybe exciting is the wrong word, but if you want to support us over there, Too Fast, TooForever.com, get our undying love and affection, of course,
Yes.
but early access to stuff, Fast and Furious Minute Quiz, pit stops, all that sort of stuff. Plus, a very exciting announcement coming down the pike very shortly.
Ooh,
Just got to
it's
do a little
so
bit
big.
of crossing T's and dotting I's on that, but just stay tuned. Too Fast, TooForever.com, and also on social media, etc., etc. We also have an email address, family@cageclub.me. And Joe, we have no emails today, but we have one thing, and this is the second time it's happened,
What?
and this guy has not responded yet. So, okay, on our YouTube page, it's just these episodes with a still image of the art. Like, there's nothing
Yes. Yeah.
more there. It's just a different way to watch or different way to listen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when we posted the Alita Battle Angel episode, somebody commented, was just like, this guy, John, says, geez, took half the podcast to get to Alita. Also, Alita make money. And he, like, blah, blah, he talks about, like, took so long to get to the content and also correcting us about, like, he's part of the Alita army, whatever, right?
Okay.
And I said, cool, glad you watched. Just so you know, I put in the description a direct link to where we start talking about the movie. And so this guy is like, oh, sorry, just noticed that LOL, good video, by the way.
Okay.
I know that we babble about stuff for a while, and
Same.
there's
Yeah.
on the feed when people are listening. I think if people don't know, if this is your first episode, if you are a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, you can look in the description of this. There's a literal timestamp. You just tap that, and it jumps you right there in the podcast. So you skip all this nonsense. And I put that, especially when I started posting things on YouTube, because I'm like, I know that people, especially on YouTube, there's a much bigger audience just searching like, oh, Alita Battle Angel. Like, oh, what's this 2-hour thing? Maybe it's the movie. Oh, it's not the movie. Oh, but they're talking about the movie. Oh, no, they're talking about like Love Island. It's like, wait, what? Hold on. So
Yes.
I knew that it's not buried, but it's not like, hey, jump here. Like I'm putting the description at the end of the description every time. So even on the episode descriptions and on YouTube, when I started putting on YouTube like months ago, click thing, go right to the thing, right? So, okay. So then I get one from our 2-lane blacktop episode from Warren Dubois. Congratulations. You managed to babble about everything but this movie for over an hour before you actually started talking about the movie. And I said to him, I echoed back directly, congratulations, you listened to our podcast, yet somehow missed the timestamp in the description that points you directly to when we start talking about the movie. We hope you enjoyed. He has not responded yet.
Yeah, I mean, we get it. But we say this all the time. Like, you can always skip ahead. And I know that you're very good about the timestamps. So, sorry. if you listen to this by accident.
I forgot that we have one other email. Didn't go to family. Went to, I think, went to Joey at. But it's from Carlos at podstatus.com. Subject line: Too Fast, Too Forever, the Fast and Furious podcast, is ranking very well in Angola.
Oh.
Hope all is well. I hope I have some information that might interest you. Your podcast, Too Fast, Too Forever, has good performance in some rankings. Last 30 days, it's the number one podcast in the category film reviews in Angola and number two in Bulgaria.
Well, we should get a plaque.
The data is provided by podstatus.com. Happy podcasting, Carlos from Podstatus.
If you're in Angola, can you write us an email at family.cageclub.me?
It might be one person who downloaded one episode and didn't even listen to it. I don't know how big the podcasting game is over in Angola. We're big in Angola.
Huge.
Joe, on the streets, any news about the Fast and Furious? Oh, if you want to email us, family@cageclub.me, but any news that you have seen about this movie, these movies, anything related to the Fastiverse?
No, Jason was sending us some things, but it was all like Screen Rant stuff that's kind of stuff we've already talked about. It's like, them just continuing the stories of like, is Brian going to be in 9 and like things like that.
Oh, I saw that. The answer was basically, probably not.
Yeah, it's all like articles like this. So yes, Jason, I'm seeing your news, and we appreciate you.
He's also put a lot of pictures on our Facebook page about F9, and I don't know if they're things he created or other fans have created or official, but a lot of brother versus brother seems to be the tagline. We'll see how that all shakes out. I mean, I think that if there were new posters, we would have seen them like official posters.
Yeah,
but
same.
The things he's posting are pretty cool looking. So, again, excited. Just give us more.
Exactly.
Without further ado, I think the only other thing to talk about is maybe our shortest minute that we will ever minute, the Fast and Furious deleted scene.
Which is not a minute, it's 22 seconds.
22 seconds. Tanner and Brian in Police House.
He is under a tremendous amount of pressure, just like we are. God, it's getting hard to be in law enforcement. We got OJ on the street, we got officers in jail. Nobody likes us anymore. Come on, let's get you back out there.
So after meeting with Bilkins in his office, Tanner and Brian quickly debrief. Tanner walks Brian outside as he prepares to leave.
I'm assuming that's the official name of this deleted scene, right? Like,
that's what's on the DVD.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so that's somewhat official.
But it also sounds like Food Shack.
Yes, that's why I was asking, because I was like, because maybe they didn't name these, maybe they were just like 1, 2, 3. The name was just so direct. I was like, were you making a joke, or is that what they called it somewhere?
Yeah, like I don't know, because later on they'll call like things like the CIA Black Site, which is still as generic, but also sounds more specific, but just Police House. There was a Tim and Eric show that came out this year called Beef House, which was just where they had the Beef Boys, and they lived in a house, and it was Eric married to Jamie Lynn Sigler of Sopranos, playing, I think, herself.
Jamie Lynn Sigler from Sopranos. Which one is she?
Meadow.
Oh, okay. I don't know her real name. I just know her as Meadow, and she was just recently in a bunch of Lifetime movies. So.
Oh. But they did a show called Beef House, which was just, Tim and Eric with all their regular kind of weirdo actors who are just so perfect for what they do, but like don't act in other things. And it was called Beef House. And so Police House reminds me of that, but it's also
what was Beef House about? Like, what was it, like rat beef?
It's just them living in a house, and then just, it's kind of a parody of like 80s sitcoms, but Tim and Eric, and just getting into shenanigans that like Eric's wife, like Meadow, can't find out about, or, falling in love with the neighbor, or just they have to bring in a new kid who wants to kill them. Like, it's all like weird, sort of surreal, slightly over the top and not radically over the top storylines that you would see on a 1980s sitcom.
Makes sense, yeah.
It was also like 6 or 8 episodes of like 10-minute episodes. Like, it was just, it was a weird...
10-minute episodes? That feels weird, though.
It's Adult Swim.
Yeah, fuck. I keep forgetting that this is like a format. Sorry, I don't watch any Adult Swim, so like every time you're like 10-minute episodes or something, I'm like, what the fuck would they do?
I've been starting to watch some Quibi stuff, which is like 6 or 7-minute episodes, and those fly by too.
Well, how are you watching it? Didn't Quibi die?
No, Quibi's still around. I did a free trial of Quibi. Like, you can still, like, Quibi's still going, they still have money to burn through for the rest of the year. I think it's going to end around March or something. But I was like, yeah, I might as well watch some of the stuff before it goes away or whatever. Like, they put a couple pilots up on YouTube a while back, but I'm watching right now. The one I started with was the show Dummy.
Are these like 6-minute? I just can't understand 6-minute episodes and like, is it good? Does it follow like a normal show structure?
This is an 80-minute movie essentially that was broken up into
Okay.
chapters, but the
Okay.
chapters each are self-contained. They each tell like a chunk of the story. So instead of having scenes, they're essentially like a Quibi episode. And there's other ones like I watched 3 pilots, I think, like over the summer when Quibi was like, "Hey, you should, check us out because we're not going to be around forever." I watched this pilot and I watched one with Dane DeHaan and Micah Monroe where she's an Uber driver and he's like a creepy passenger. And then I watched one, I want to say maybe Chris Hemsworth or Liam Hemsworth is like, it's kind of like an action-y thing. But there's like 6 or 7 series. There's like the Reno 911 reboot. Like there's a lot on there that like seems pretty decent. It's just I don't want to watch things on my phone. But now that you can airplay them to the TV, different ballgame.
Makes sense.
Any length of anything can be good if it's adapted or written to fit the format, whether it's 6 minutes or 10 minutes or 22 or an hour. Or, we watch a thing that's like, oh, this is a 2-hour movie, this is a 3-hour movie, this should be like a 6-hour miniseries, it should be a 12-hour miniseries. Like it's just whatever. If there's enough story to tell, if there's a 22-second scene, like we get everything we want in Police House.
We do. I was just thinking like, did somebody really conform to the boundaries of the media? If they're 6-minute videos, was there like something specifically shot 6 minutes a piece? Because like, why do we pick 30 minutes? It doesn't fucking matter, right? Like it's
Well, just because that's how
yeah,
advertisers sell the thing. Like it
exactly.
just fits the medium. So like that's why with Netflix, like there's some stuff that's 20 minutes and that's like 30, 35, whatever. And I think, a couple of years ago when AMC and FX, a couple of years ago now, like a decade ago, when AMC and FX specifically were just like, you can do whatever length you want. Like if Breaking Bad needs to go 12 extra minutes, we can sell an extra ad block. And because it's Breaking Bad, we can get a premium. So like
Yep.
they started adapting it. HBO started adapting it. Like it's easier for scheduling and stuff to have it contained to an hour, half an hour, whatever. If it story needs to be longer, they can fill the time with whatever because they know that if it's popular enough or well written enough, it's going to be worth the minor headache of scheduling or whatever. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of the Quibi stuff was. I mean, I've not seen a ton of it yet, but like I think a lot of it has been written or adapted or chopped or whatever that you could break up. Theoretically, you could break up the Fast and Furious into like things like
Minutes.
there's
That's what I was
rising
just
action
saying.
and falling action. The minutes are they do sometimes work, but like they're more of an arbitrary thing. But you can
Yes.
any movie you can pretty much chunk up into like 6 to 10 minute things.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
Dummy, I think is like it was an 80. I don't know if it was written as an 80-minute movie but it's on Letterboxd as an 80-minute movie. So once I'm done, I'll log it over there. But yeah, I don't know. But in this minute, back to Police House, this is the quote unquote famous scene, famous line where we have
Yes.
Tanner talking about OJ.
I'm glad some stuff got cut out. This is one that I'm very glad that got cut out. I'm glad that it still exists because I like watching it, but at the same time, I'm like, good call. It would have definitely dated the movie, like you said. Like it really puts you in that time frame.
And like 2001, again, it's so weird because it's like 7 years after OJ. Like,
So it's
not
not
that
super
things have.
timely of the time, but yes.
And Rob Cohen's explanation for this was they cut it out because it was hopelessly outdated and forced. But yeah, like the last minute, I wish that they left that in or found a way to like incorporate some of those lines into another scene. This we don't need. It's just like explaining why Bilkins is upset. But it's like, yeah, Bilkins is like a black police captain in the LAPD. Like things are not good for him. Like that's a terrible situation, right? So
Yep, exactly.
the most interesting thing to me, and I think to us in general, is the location of this room in the house because it's the part of the house that we don't know. Like it's the part of the house that we assume exists because it's an actual house they're shooting in, but it's part of the house that we don't see in the regular movie.
It's like to the right of the door when they walk in. So it's a room that I'm thinking faces like that kitchen opening, the other end of that. Like when we see down into the kitchen, and there's all those boxes, remember?
Yep.
I'm assuming that that's like the opposite corner of that.
Are we to believe, do you think this is Tanner's office?
Because it's a real house and this is a setup office, yes, I think that this is Tanner's office.
Because like Bilkins has what was probably like the office or the study or something, maybe a
Yes,
guest room.
yeah.
Like that's his office because he's the one in charge there. But it feels like Tanner's is like second in command, and this is not like
This feels very dining room.
right. This is not a great office, but it's semi-private as opposed to being down there in like the corral or whatever they call it, the bullpen,
Pit.
right?
Pit, yeah.
Where there's just desks, like just folding tables as desks. Like this is kind of a little quieter, right? But you're still in the open air of whatever. But
Yeah.
it feels like this is probably his computer, his setup, his whatever.
Again, we hit this problem that we see his computer and I can't make out anything on the screen because I would really have loved to seen what he's doing. And I can't even get a vague enough reference to guess if it's like a web page versus a document versus what. Like there's a sidebar that I could make out, but other than that, it's just like all text, and I don't know what he's looking at.
It's probably just like perps.
No, I was thinking it was more gonna be like the model of VCRs or something, right? It's like these are these are all the specs of the VCR, or like a review of it, or something like that.
What's the funny thing that, with this, because there's nothing to glean, even if we saw what's on the screen, it's just like, oh, okay. But watching the X-Files, as I slowly rewatch those with friends, like, I'm in season 2, so it's like early 95 right now, and like, they're like, oh, we have this special photo software we can blow up and enhance and whatever. It's like, yeah, no, like, that still doesn't exist. Like, you can, like there's Photoshop, but like, you can't just make a blurry photo clean. Like, there's AI that now will like depixelize, but like, it has to be decent to start. Like, it can't be like, if you can't see it at all in any resolution, like, you can't just suddenly make it clear or like enhance it with heat signatures. It's like, yeah, I get, like, there's this whole world of TV and movie computers that don't really exist.
I always laugh in a very similar sense. I always laugh at the science ones where they're like, "Who is it?" and they like put a sample of like his hair in there, and then like a picture comes up, and we're like, "No, it's definitely not how that works." But
is the thing where they have like a DNA helix and they overlay it, or like whatever, like one of those, like, I don't know exactly what it's called, but like it's like all the dots, it's like the genetic markers, like, and they overlay. It's like, look, perfect match. Is that real or is that TV too?
Absolutely wrong. So fake. There's no GUI program that shows you the two overlapping. Yeah, definitely not.
Because I guess that's the, what were we talking about? Was it, oh, it's in the back half of this episode with the freakouts. It's like, yeah, we just need to show a thing, because it can't be just somebody like, oh, I'm freaking out. It's like, because otherwise it's like looking at a piece of paper. It's like, yep, he's the killer. It's like, well, gotta show that, right? Like, look, we're gonna put it up in this like white box and like the light box and be like, okay, here we go. Overlay, perfect match.
Yes. Like a readout of like DNA things is just going to be like, it's just a giant file, like a text file of just letters to start out with.
Yeah.
That's what
GCAT, oh my God, it's the same.
Yeah. It's absolutely the same.
Anything else about Tanner and Brian in Police House that you have of note?
This one definitely felt like it should be cut. That's why that's my main takeaway from this one, is like, it was like, okay, we got 22 seconds here. The OJ reference, I can see that being dated at the time and now. You just get another shot of the house. Nothing of any real use happens. So
also, the big takeaway is that people don't like cops. It's like, yeah, we get it.
Yeah. And like, we know that from like Vince hating the cops and everyone hating the cops in general. So yeah.
All right, Joe, let us take a break and let us come back to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound.
Ooh. Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 148, Spellbound. This episode is brought to you by Atomic Memory Fit boots. Atomic Memory Fit is one of the quickest heat fitting technologies around, and you can totally personalize boots in a matter of minutes. What makes Memory Fit so special is that it's all three elements of the boot adapt to your foot: the shell, the cuff, and the liner. If you need new ski boots, call Atomic Memory Fit.
Well, shout out to Atomic Memory Fit, and welcome back to the show. This is, I was saying to you when we watched this separately last night, that this is the third oldest movie I've seen this year, and the oldest since January 3rd. So, like, basically, I started the movie off started the year off a couple old movies, and then have not gone this old since, but here we are. How familiar are you overall with Alfred Hitchcock?
I've seen a bunch of the classics.
What's a bunch? Like 5?
Yeah, probably like the top 5. And like, I'm saying, like, just from memory, there's ones that I've seen like multiple times, like Psycho,
okay,
The Birds, Rear Window. I know I've seen a bunch of The Show too, like with my grandparents when I was a kid.
Okay.
I don't know. I like, off the top of my head, I couldn't name like 20 of them.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I've never seen any of The Show, but I've seen probably a dozen or more of his movies. So this is 1945. This is still on the
early side, right?
That's the weird thing. Like, he has made probably 25 movies by this point.
Okay.
But they're mostly low budget things that I went to Walmart like a decade ago and they're like, here's 20 Hitchcock movies for $5. It's like, wait, what? But they're all the old stuff that's kind of in the public domain. Like by this point, he had made a few that you might have heard of. Like
what?
He made Rebecca, which was just remade for Netflix.
Nah,
it's
didn't hear
based
that
on the
one.
book. The Lady Vanishes came out. The 39 Steps had come out. Strangers on a Train had come out. Rope had come out. Everything that people know about him or know him for predominantly, like all the ones you said, like Psycho and The Birds and Rear Window, but Vertigo and North by Northwest and Feeding Frenzy and all those, that's all after. So like this is still like a couple decades into his career, but also, not
early in the hits.
It's early, yes. And I think this is one that's fairly popular, fairly well regarded, but not one of his, like on Letterboxd, I think it's probably his like 12th or 14th most famous. Like it's popular, but it's not The Birds, right?
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
a different thing. But I had never seen this before. Had you seen this one before or no?
No, absolutely not. And it kind of felt like because my impressions of Hitchcock come from like the hits, when this one started out, it felt early. Like I didn't even like look at the date to kind of place it, but it just felt like not a Hitchcock movie like we see later with like the music.
Well, so the music is going to play a big part. I have a lot of trivia about different things, but the other thing that's set up, did you recognize, did you look up either of these leads?
It's like one's Gregory Peck, who's super famous, right?
But do you know what he's from or no?
I'm going to guess, this is straight off the top of my head, I didn't touch any keyboards.
There's one role that they're both, like each of them is really well known for.
I'm going to say It's a Wonderful Life.
No.
No.
I don't know if he's in that or not. I don't think he is, but he's
Rachel's
most
shaking
known...
her head. She's laughing at me. Go ahead.
He's most known for playing Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I like the book so much better than the movie.
Yeah, no, I think that like he's most known on Letterboxd for To Kill a Mockingbird, then Cape Fear, the Scorsese movie, and then Roman Holiday. So like, I mean, he's not a one and done, but he's, mostly known for Atticus Finch. And then did you recognize her?
No, I didn't. I had no idea who she was.
So that's Ingrid Bergman, who's, the female lead in one of the, in Casablanca. Heard of it?
Okay.
She's also in Notorious, which is a Hitchcock movie that will come out the next year with her and Cary Grant and Claude Rains, who is...
Does she have an accent, or does she play an accent in this movie?
No, she's Swedish.
Okay.
These are two people that are, like, massively... Like, she's been in a bunch of things. Like, she's one of the more famous celebrities of that time, I think, actresses of that time. But, like, I think predominantly known for Casablanca, but both good performances from people who are mostly known for other things, I think.
Yeah, Gregory Peck is like a big name. Like I remember like my grandma talking about him all the time. They're kind of George Clooney-ish kind of guy, right?
Yeah, and like this is 20 years before Mockingbird. So like there's a lot of his career that I don't know. I just don't know what he's been in otherwise, but
he was like big in the movie in the
pictures?
In the pictures. Yeah, he was big in the pictures back in the day.
So this is an adaptation of the novel The House of Dr. Edwards. So the thing about this is that I was looking on Letterboxd like what this is about, and like I'm like, I think that's Ingrid Bergman, but I want to check. I'm like, I hear a character and I'm like, okay, cool. Okay. And then I'm like, I don't really like, I know what Gregory Peck looks like, but like a lot of these dudes like could be like I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of these movies from this time.
You're right, yeah.
And I hear his name and it's Anthony Edwards or whatever, right? I look on Letterboxd and it's like he's credited as John Ballantyne. I'm like, the fuck? Like, hold on. And then I like read the summary and it's like a man he thinks he's murdered someone but can't remember. I'm like, why are you saying this in the description? Like, I guess that's what it's about, but I'm like, you just spoiled the first 35 minutes of your movie. Like, the movie is about, there is amnesia, thank God.
There is, yes.
Each time that we do one of these movies that I haven't seen before, a couple years ago, there was, oh God, what's the movie called? Anna and the Apocalypse. It's wonderful. Actually, the woman who plays Anna is actually in Dickinson, which is great. She plays Emily Dickinson's best friend. I was saying to Brian, I'm like, I think this is a high school movie, but I'm not 100% sure. But Mike and I went to go see it in a movie theater. We were going to go back to Mike's house and record an episode of Slumber Party. And the whole time I'm like, I'm like 85% sure this is a high school movie, but like it might not be. And like if it's not, I like kind of screwed Brian over for scheduling. Yeah. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh fuck, come on. And then like, all right, going off to school. I'm like, hell yeah, man. Like I got it. So like each of these movies where I'm like, okay, it's a bunch of doctors, it's psychoanalysts, like kind of, it's in the ballpark. And then he's like, I can't remember. I'm like, thank God. Like, whew. Like worst case, we just see a good movie. But like at the end of the day, it's just like, I'd like it to be thematically appropriate. And so I was a little worried for a little while. And I'm like, okay, whew, good.
I wasn't worried at all. I felt This gave me a lot of Shutter Island vibes from the jump. So
Okay.
I was in it. I was like, okay, there's definitely gonna be some, like, I knew it was Hitchcock, right? It's like you're gonna get like a twist at the end.
Speaking of that, did you catch his cameo?
Oh fuck, no, I didn't.
Because I missed it the first time and I looked it up, but when they get to the hotel and she's like looking around for Gregory Peck, he like gets off the elevator holding a violin case and smoking a cigarette, and just like he's not
Ah.
big, he's like kind of just like got a little bit of a belly, but he's not a Hitchcock belly yet. But he just walked by and very clearly him. But I was wondering because it was at the end. Maybe there were scenes at the end where I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be when they're at Grand Central going to Rochester or whatever. I'm like, I bet he's here.
I thought it was gonna be like when all the doctors walk in of the office, because there's
Yes.
so many people, right? And it's like, we're the cops and the doctors and the people here.
No, he's just in the elevator. So if people don't know, he puts himself in a very small cameo role, like usually not speaking, not
Stan
like
Lee.
yeah, but not Stanley because it's not. He doesn't usually say a line. He's just like a guy who like walks through the frame. Like you can very notice, but it's not like Peter Parker talking to Stanley. It's just like
True. Yep.
he'll
Yep. Yep.
walk in front of it or whatever.
Hmm.
This movie was nominated for 6 Oscars. It won one. It was nominated for Best
Damn.
Picture. It lost to The Lost Weekend, which I don't know. The director, Hitchcock, was obviously nominated, but he also lost to the guy who did Billy Wilder, who was famous, who did The Apartment, which is a great
Okay.
Christmas movie, who did The Lost Weekend. Best actor in a supporting role, Michael Chekhov, who's the guy who plays the doctor they go to visit, the old man.
Ah.
He
Okay.
was
Yeah.
nominated.
He was good.
Best cinematography, best special effects, and best
Oh my God.
music. The music won. Scoring of a dramatic or comedic picture.
Oh, that's kind of cool. It's funny to think that like the special effects,
Yeah.
or that there even was a special effects category, because it's something that I don't think about without like CGI, right?
Like, I wonder what the special effects might be. The fact that they hand painted 2 frames at the end red for like the flash of the gun,
That whole like weird dream sequence,
which
too.
I have a lot about. I have a lot about that.
Okay,
But
cool.
yes, also this is the time where best cinematography in the black and white category, because there were separate ones for color films and black and white films. So there were 2
Oh.
different Oscars. So this is best cinematography black and white, which is noteworthy. The only best picture nominee that year to be nominated for best special effects. So to your point, it's rare that I guess that a movie this good also has weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
And the only Best Picture nominee that year not to be nominated for either lead acting category. So the Academy, I guess, were not very thrilled with Ingrid Bergman or Gregory Peck. I think they're good, but maybe they're just not as good as whoever won that year. I don't know.
I have no frame of reference for that one. So
So speaking of the music, this is very, very cool, especially to us for a couple different reasons. So this guy, I want to get the guy's name. So the music is done by Miklos Rosa, Rozsa, who is Hungarian, right? So
okay.
he is this guy who did a bunch of old movies. He inspired Jerry Goldsmith to become a film composer. This guy, Jerry Goldsmith, is like, I love this music so much, I'm going to become a composer myself, right?
Okay.
So this score inspired that. But noteworthy is because Goldsmith is most known for film and TV. So he's done a bunch of big things like the Star Trek movies, Rambo, Logan's Run, Planet of the Apes, Chinatown, Air Force One, Mulan, like a bunch of like big movies, right? Pretty
Big
cool.
movies. Yeah, big movies.
In 1997, this guy, Jerry Goldsmith, created what they call the fanfare, which is like the opening title credits, the music for the Universal logo, which we see in each one of our Fast and Furious movies.
That's a really cool connection, buddy. That's really good.
But there's even more. Hold on.
Go ahead,
So
keep going.
it was first, his version was first played in The Lost World Jurassic Park, so in 1997. But then in 2012, for the Universal Studios 100th anniversary, it was reworked by a guy named Brian Tyler, who has scored 5 Fast and Furious movies.
BT. There
No,
you go.
not BT. Different
What?
guy. 2 different guys. There's a BT and there's a Brian Tyler. Different guys. Both have worked on the Fast and Furious.
Oh, damn. Okay, cool. That
Yeah.
works for me, but I just assumed that it was BT.
If you look at Brian Tyler on Wiki, because I had to check, it's like not to be confused with BT musician, but they've both worked. BT
Wow.
did the first one, but Brian Tyler did like 3 on. He did like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fast connection there.
I know. Goldsmith, just to put a button on him, was nominated for 6 Grammys, 5 Emmys, 9 Golden Globes, 4 BAFTAs, and 18 Academy Awards. He won in 1976 The Omen. So like this score inspired this guy who not only was nominated for a whole bunch of stuff, but essentially directly led to music that we have heard every time we put on a Fast and Furious movie.
Insane. Yeah, that's really, really crazy.
And the last bit of trivia, so actually, before I get there, so the psychotherapy stuff, because this is about psychoanalysis, that Ingrid Bergman plays this doctor who's in the study of dreams. She's kind of a therapist, but not exactly, like more doctory. Not that therapists aren't doctors, but she's like more clinical, I would say. Like it's kind of this weird, like how would you describe her role?
She's a practicing physician, but it's at a weird time where like, she's doing like they're all doing some research. Now we call this translational medicine, right? That you're like doing research and practicing, right?
Okay.
Medicine to go like it's not like hard science where you're just like doing behavioral studies, but it's also kind of different with like psychology type things because you have like it's the study of people, right? As opposed to like hard science, chemicals, molecules, shit like that.
Gotcha.
It's a weird recreational mental hospital.
Like they're on like the Wild West of like what dreams mean. They're like, oh, this means this. Here's some drugs. You're cured now. It's like, oh, wait, what? Like the explanation of like you have these demons, and if you like unlock what the demons mean, they get expelled from you, and you're able to like go free and clear.
I was laughing at this that like in the 1940s that this is what we think. Like it's the beginning of like Freud and like discussion therapy, but their conclusion was like once you figure out what's like what your demons or your trauma is, then it's gone. And it's like no, that's a whole we've got 70 80 years later we're like no, you can figure it out, but it's still like you have to deal with it too. They're just like once you figure it out you're good, like you're totally fine.
And what's even funnier in a not a funny way, but that's the only word that comes to mind, is that the movie opens with this woman going to talk to Ingrid Bergman about how like she's like sexually frustrated, right? And she had a dream that she wanted, or maybe she even actually bit this guy's mustache, like she just like sexually frustrated, whatever. So not only is like the explanation, the exploration of the mental illness and just everything like that very new and very unlearned right now, but the early versions of the script had words like sex menace and frustrations and libido and tomcat in that scene.
Ooh.
And apparently the product code administrator director strongly objected to those because like back then there weren't ratings. This was pre-MPAA, so it's like either like this guy says yes we can show this movie or no you can't. So he's like you got to get rid of all that. So like not only are they not really understanding how mental health and mental illness and whatever work, but it's also like beyond that in terms of depicting it, it's like, oh, you can't say these things either. So like it's 2 steps removed from anything that's even remotely approaching like how we would treat things today.
Agreed. Yeah, it was very interesting from this perspective. I was watching the whole movie through this kind of lens of like science of the 40s, and it was very strange.
This is a movie that was produced by this guy David O. Selznick, who's a pretty big producer at the time. I think he would do like 3 movies or something with Hitchcock. It seemed like they had a very combative relationship, but it came from his relationship with psychotherapy. He brought his psychotherapist into the set just to be like, hey, can you advise on this? And at one point she's like, none of this is how it actually happens. And Hitchcock just goes, my dear, it's only a movie. So like he didn't really give a shit. He's just like, we're telling a story. Because he would describe it as, quote, just another manhunt wrapped up in pseudo psychoanalysis. Like he knows like we're gonna throw it in this world, but like we don't really need to know. Like we're not trying to prove to people like psychoanalysis works. It's like we're gonna throw like a trippy dream sequence and we're gonna do a thing and like it's gonna be a good movie. We don't really care if it's true or not, right?
He needs it as a set, not to be realistic. He's not shooting a documentary, right? That's his whole point, and that makes sense to me too.
And it's one of the first Hollywood movies to deal with psychoanalysis. So like now there's a lot of stuff about dreams and like Inception, right? Like without Spellbound, there is no Inception. Maybe, but maybe not. You know what I mean? Like who knows?
Yeah. I feel like this movie, like I said earlier, I feel like this movie directly influenced Shutter Island. I saw like so much Shutter Island in this.
The dream stuff. So there's a dream sequence in this movie that the guy thinks he murdered someone. He's pretending he's the guy that he thinks he murdered because he doesn't know who he is. He's just trying to like figure things out. Right? He figures if he stays close enough, he'll remember whatever. Ingrid Bergman brings him to her advisor, her mentor, whatever. The guy who was nominated for the Oscar, Michael Chekhov, Dr. Alexander Brulov, brings him there, and they like do like a regression hypnosis, and they're like, remember the dream. And so he describes this dream. I had no idea this happened, but they brought Salvador Dali in to do this whole thing.
Oh, that makes so much. It felt so like it. Oh, that makes so much sense, dude.
So they apparently did like a 20-minute version of this. Eventually got cut down to the 2 minutes that we saw, but they brought Dali in because Hitchcock loved Dali, and he realized that no one did dream stuff better.
Dead on.
Like Selznick, the producer, was like, I don't want to bring him in. He's too expensive. And then realized eventually, oh, we can market this as like a, hey, Salvador Dali like created stuff. So like he's an art director on this, but like he eventually realized, oh, this is a marketing opportunity. So they brought him in. And so it was supposed to be 20 minutes longer. There was a scene in a ballroom with hanging pianos and still figures pretending to dance. Ingrid Bergman at one point was going to turn into a statue to create the
Wow.
illusion of a room of great size. They had little people in the background on a scaled down set, which didn't make Hitchcock happy or Dali happy. The whole thing was cut due to lack of time and inability to like make everybody happy. The guy who filmed it all, like it was essentially like a second unit guy, for better or worse, like William Cameron Menzies, did not like the way it turned out. He called it unappealing. He's like, don't put my name on it. Hitchcock's like, all right, cool. And then everyone loved it. And so Hitchcock was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I did it. Like, why not?
What a dick.
Yeah, Hitchcock was like barely involved in this. This other guy did everything. He didn't like the way it turned out. He's like, I don't put my name on it. And he's like, all right, cool. That's all the trivia. There's a couple things at the end that I want to bring up, very minor things. But for a long time in this movie, I was like, this kind of feels like the opposite of a Fast and Furious movie because like there's no action, there's no cuts, it's all dialogue, and I'm like, this is like the opposite of everything we've seen.
Yeah.
Eventually, it gets to the memory loss thing. But what did you think of Spellbound? Did you enjoy this movie? Overall impressions? Hit me with it.
I really liked it. I was actually more enthused by it because it was actually better than I thought. I do feel like we are so hyper stimulated now that like I was let down by like the twists. Not that I figured them out, but just the sense that expected them to be more complex. And this is one of the issues we ran into, that like we're more informed, customers now. We see so much more media and film and stuff. I still was like, oh, this is really good. But I was like, oh man, if it was like way more Shutter Island-y and like way more complicated and convoluted, it would have turned out better. But that's just like not of the time. So that was just me, just like, that's my like biggest gripe about it, but it's my own fault.
I remember when I watched Shutter Island the first time, like I figured out what was going on. And I was like, oh, that's underwhelming. Like to me, that was just like I read through that. Like this, I guess because I mean, to your point, like it's all simpler. Like this is not the
Yes.
thousandth time we've seen this. It's the first time people have seen a lot of this, right? And
Yep.
I think in retrospect, it does kind of seem like, oh, and like the way that she's like, you won't kill me because the guy you like that. We'll talk about the twist at the end or whatever. But like
Yeah.
the other guy you killed, like you were mentally unwell then. Like jury will let you off, but if you kill me now, that's a murder. And she like walks out. It's like that's not how this would play. Like
No,
that's a
he would
weird
just shoot
thing.
her right in the face.
Yeah,
She's
but
dead.
being hyper-stimulated and seeing this type of thing, variations or descendants of this so often, it's like, oh, yeah.
It's fun to look at these movies in the time that they were set too, because there's just like all kinds of wacky shit that's always happening that you're just like, oh yeah, like everybody's smoking everywhere. Even stuff like that like has changed since like the 80s, right? You're like, oh god, yeah, I totally forgot that this could just, people did shit like this.
Yeah, to the point now where, like, you can't show people smoking in a movie unless there's a reason, like, or it's going
Yep.
to be rated R. Like, they just so firmly want it out of the zeitgeist and out of kids' eyes and kids' minds that they're just like, yeah, like, only bad guys smoke. And, like, that's in a movie that you're probably not watching anyway. So, but yeah, here, everybody, Hitchcock walking out with his violin case and cigarettes, just like, oh, yeah, like,
That's what I mean, like in
doctors
like the
smoking in the
lobby,
lunchroom, right? Yeah.
the lobby of the hotel. You
Yep.
know what I mean? I'm like, oh god, fuck, I've totally forgot you could do that. Like, can you imagine if you walked into a hotel lobby right now and somebody was smoking? You'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah. I mean, also different world. I think this is the first time that a movie we have watched begins with an overture,
oh
and there's
god.
exit music as well. There's just like 4 minutes at the beginning and like 4 minutes at the end of just music. That there's not a lot of movies that I've seen with overtures. Like when Hateful Eight did the Road Show, when Tarantino put out the like 70 millimeter version, that had an overture, but like that's a throwback to this time. Like
Yes, yeah.
no other movie is just gonna like start with like four. I'm just like, okay,
It's very theatery.
yeah, exactly.
Like a play, like a some kind of performance, like, oh, here's the overture starting, we need to get to our seats, like this kind of thing.
And it's the kind of thing where, like, if you're a trained musical ear, you can be like, it tells the story of the thing or whatever, but like, it starts peaceful and then gets kind of chaotic. It's like, yeah, like that's what I figure a thriller is going to be anyway. It's not, there's nothing to decode here in the over. Like,
Yep.
it's nice music, but it's like, I get it. Like, I didn't want to skip through, but like, I could have skipped through.
I didn't expect it to be this long. So like as we're watching it with Rachel, I was like, what if this movie is like 30 minutes of overture and like 30 minutes of exit music and it's only like an hour long? Like it's just like a full album at the beginning of it.
It's 4 and 4. I think it's like an hour. I think with everything, it's like an hour 58. But like the credits up front, like the movie doesn't really get started in earnest like 7 or 8 minutes. So like all in all, probably like an hour 45 of actual movie. But I did write down that we could probably, it feels like we could use a psychoanalyst to decode the hidden love stories in the Fasterverse. Like imagine like Brian O'Connor lying on a couch and being like, Doc, like I'm a cop, I'm undercover, and like, in love with this girl, but like there's this guy, like her brother. I'm just like, it's like, I think you're in love with the brother.
I kind of see this, but I was thinking more along the lines of like when we see Cypher and she's trying to be like, this is game theory. Remember, like those kind of parts? And I feel like Cypher would be like a prime candidate to get psychoanalyzed or to be psychoanalyzing another one of our characters.
Well, I think she kind of does, to your point, like at the beginning of 8, where she's like, how many times have you walked this route? She's like, oh, I'm just like, but that's like also kind of like, look how smart I am. It's like, well, you're not that smart. You just think you're smart, right? So, I mean, you are smart, but like.
It's like the detective in the lobby of this movie when he's like, I'm kind of a psychologist myself. And she's like, oh, really? And she's like, actually a psychologist.
Yep. A lot of this movie depends upon the thrust that they fall in love immediately and are essentially willing to die for one another, even though he doesn't remember. He walks into the lunchroom and she, like, the way the music swells and Hitchcock lights her face and just, it's all beautiful. It's like, oh, they're in love already.
Yep.
And then they go on a date in a field, which is very cutesy. And he's like, I got sandwiches. Do you want ham or liverwurst? And she turns to the camera. She's like, liverwurst. And then it cuts away. I'm like, that's the best. Like, I don't know what that is, but man, I just love it.
Do you know what liverwurst is? Have you ever had it?
Oh, I used to love it growing up. Now the idea of it, like, just grosses me out. But, like, it was my favorite sandwich.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember my grandma used to eat it, and I just remember it smelled so bad.
Yeah, it's like chicken liver in a paste. Yeah, like in a tube from Oscar Mayer. Yeah.
This is, like, my nightmare food. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Oh, okay. It's very timely for them to be eating like this isn't like nobody gets liverwurst sandwiches now.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I had it growing up in the 90s, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if I would like it now, but like just the smell would put me off, I think.
Yep, I think so too.
But we get in here something, and it's not them having sex, because as far as I can tell, they don't have sex during this movie because it's all like, we're in love, but we're just going to kiss. It takes place essentially like in not a sleepaway camp, but like they all live and work in the same building, right? Where they all treat patients, they all live there.
Yep.
After they have this date in the park, she's like, she can't sleep. She's like, she's so smitten by him. She goes up and just like opens the door, and he's just sitting by his bed reading, and he sees her there, and they like both close up their robes a little bit more and they kiss. And then we cut to 4 doors opening, and I'm like, that's kind of a quadruple space of doors.
I thought so too. Yep, 100%. What do the doors opening symbolize? Like it's a little too on the head to make me. It made me uncomfortable with how on the head it was, but also it feels weird.
But like, it's not like they're not having sex. They're just like, that's the opening of their love, I guess.
Yeah, they're opening their hearts to each other. But it felt very sexual.
It was in the Zac Efron movie, Me and Orson Welles, that we coined this, or we didn't coin it, but we adopted it from there, that in old-timey movies, of the time when, Zac Efron's character was making a movie with Orson Welles or whatever, they wouldn't show people having sex. They would just like quadruple space in the script or in the book or whatever 4 times. They hit line break, line break, line break, line break. And you were led to believe, oh, they had sex, we just didn't see about it.
Yes.
It's essentially that, but like more visual. And I'm like, oh, I guess it did happen. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's 4 doors. So I'm wondering if like quadruple space was like the real colloquialism, like 4 spaces, 4 doors. There you go, quadruple spaced.
Seriously. I think it would have been like, oh, like them having sex, but like just having the history with, I think Mike was on that episode too.
Yeah.
Mikester, we're just like, we had such a long conversation. We're like, oh, okay.
No, but it's also a thing that we don't think about because like now you could just like, dicks in Game of Thrones whenever you want, right? Like you can just have limp dicks like wherever. So
yeah. We eventually find out why, but like one of the things that is funny in retrospect because of the way that like science and mental health has changed is like how freaked out Gregory Peck is by wavy lines. Like every time he sees wavy lines, like I can't. And it's just like, it's because it's ski tracks, because like he was around a guy who got shot, but it reminded him of the time he accidentally killed his brother when they were little. We'll talk about that. But like, it's such a leap to be like, she's like drawing wavy lines on the tablecloth. He's like, I can't be here.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's a weird perception of having something so visual be a trigger. Like it's something that's like so literal and is easy to show. I'm unsure that that's the most common way that this presents itself in real people that have triggers that would cause them to like feel like this.
No, I think it's just a visual shortcut for a movie. I think it's just like he's freaked out. Like they need to show him freaking out. Like they just can't have him. I guess they didn't want to just show him freaking out about nothing, which I guess I don't know. They wanted to like leave hints, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like your impression, please, on
Go ahead.
the character who reminded me the most of you in this movie.
So
I don't even need to say more than that. You know exactly what I'm talking
I
about,
know
right?
exactly what you're talking about. So Gregory Peck is pretending to be the head of the doctor thing, gets kind of found out. She finds out. He runs away to New York because he needs to figure out his life and who he really is. He was getting in trouble and the cops were going to show up. So he runs to this hotel and goes like, he like writes her a note like, I'll be at the Empire State Hotel. So she shows up to the hotel and she sits down and the guy sits down next to her and goes, hey, I'm from Pittsburgh. Like,
Yeah.
that's like it, like off the rip, like the first thing he says. And I was like, oh, very on brand.
He's like, in a city like this, it would never happen, but in Pittsburgh, and he says the word Pittsburgh like 6 times in a minute and a half.
Yep. He's like, in Pittsburgh, you could definitely meet people. They're really friendly there. I love Pittsburgh. This is a too big city, but like Pittsburgh is a cool city and smaller, and it's really nice there. And he keeps talking to her, and I was like, oh god, this is so dead on. And like, I can't believe we've been like this for like 80 years. I mean, not like aggressively creepy to women, just like the I'm gonna tell you about this, like immediately the first things out of my mouth. And it was wonderful.
Yeah, he just sits down like almost on top of her, and it's just like, hey, let me tell you about Pittsburgh. It's like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, and he's like, no, I'm gonna keep talking about this until you listen. So, like, that's how it happens.
And eventually the hotel detective, which apparently is a job, comes over. It's like, hey, buddy, scram. And then when he goes away, the guy comes back, and then just, it's a nice little beat there. One thing that I was like, oh, right, 1945, when they're in Grand Central, so, like, she goes up, she finds the room.
Which is super cool, because you've been, like, Grand Central
No,
is
we talked about this. I have not been to Grand Central.
Oh, fuck, dude.
We talked about, what movie was it? We were doing something, we were like, oh, you've been there, right? I'm like, no, I haven't. Like, it was something
That's right.
Last Lap, maybe? I don't remember.
Yeah, but, like, it was really cool for me, because, like I've said before, that's how we get to New York City. So, like, we take Metro North from New Haven to Grand Central, and our track number, when we were watching this, I was, like, talking to Rachel, I think our track number is, like, 24. Like, usually we're about, like, 24 is where we get, the Metro North, and they keep going to track number 22, and the doors almost still look like this, right? Like, so I was like, wow, this is very fucking strange. You don't have like a ticket guy in the front though, but it was cool to see an old Grand Central.
Can you tell me, is there still a gigantic sign that's probably like 20 feet by 40 feet? Buy more war bonds.
No, that definitely doesn't exist. There's a bar up there now, right under where that sign is. Like, there's like steps that go up, and there's a bar there. And I usually guzzle a beer there before we get on the train. So
this guy is having freakouts all movie long, and he's like got like a burn on his hand. She's like, "Oh, 3rd-degree burn. You've been burned. You've been a skin graft. Let's figure this out." And then like she's like, "Try to remember where you bought a ticket from." He's just like, "I don't know, Rome." They're like, "What? Rome?" And they buy tickets to Rome, Georgia, but then they like go secretly to Rochester, which is where her mentor is, because she's like, we need to walk you through some shit, because like I'm not doctor enough to figure out what's going on in your brain. Like I can kind of get there, but like you are fucked up, my man.
Yeah,
and so they go up to Rochester.
Repair.
We teased this. We were talking about this in the last opening to the last episode. They get to this guy's house.
This is
and his
so great.
housekeeper opens the door, and she's like, "Thank God you're here. I gotta go. Room's over there. He's not here. He'll be back here. By the way, let him know dinner's on the table. Oh, and there's other people in the room too.
Let him know that they're here too." And you're like, "What?
I don't know."
Fuck.
And so they go in there, and eventually it becomes clear that these other people are cops on the case of these people, which must mean they're like Brian level bad at their job, because like her picture's literally in the paper. They don't recognize her, and
but there's not like a fax machine, dude. So like,
it's true.
So like, they might not have gotten the pictures yet. And also, they're not investigating them. They're investigating the death of this guy, or the disappearance of the doctor that he's pretending to be.
That's true.
They ask her mentor, you got into a fight with the Dr. Edwards, who's like now missing. Was it you? Like, they suspect him because they got into like a scuff at like a conference somewhere. They don't suspect these two to be a part of it yet.
Right. Because if they knew at all, they'd be like, oh, game over here. But they eventually go away. They stay over. They have this whole like back and forth, like, oh, who takes the bed? I'll take the couch, whatever. And then in the middle of the night, he wakes up and like, it makes me nervous that he's going to slash, like, that's the whole point of the scene. Like, he's going to slash her throat with this shaving razor.
Yes.
But like, he goes into this bathroom that is so nice and like immaculately designed that I'm like, are they in a hotel? Oh no, they're just upstairs to this dude's house. Like, the entire, like, what a hotel looks like, with like the fine presentation, the sparse decor, and like just the clean everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's a nice bathroom.
Joey, we need to go back to this fucking time where scientists and intellectuals get some fucking respect in this town. I want to know where my hotel level bathroom is. Why don't I have housekeepers that let cops into my house whenever they feel like?
Well, when my sister and I moved to Austin, we had a spare bedroom. We turned in the guest room. We had a ensuite bathroom there too, and we were like, we're going to treat this like a little getaway. And we're going to have like an individually wrapped travel size toothpaste, and individually wrapped
Perfect.
toothbrush, and like towel and
Yep.
everything. And we're like, when people come here, they're going to be like, oh, whatever you need, it's here. And then we had one person use it. We're like, we're not rebuying that stuff. Like, what are we? Who are we? Made of money? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's like a nice idea in theory, but I'm like, I'm not going to refill this every time we have a guest. Like, not that we had a ton of guests, but I'm just like, I'm not going to pay money. Like, bring your own goddamn toothpaste. But
Yeah, like
you
who
have the
travels
idea.
without toothpaste, you
Yeah.
dicks? Like
Exactly.
I thought it was gonna get really sad, and you were gonna be like, nobody ever visited.
No, we did.
Like,
Like,
no.
people also were like, were nice and they didn't because they had their own stuff. But like,
Yeah,
people use it. I'm like,
exactly.
I'm not going to buy another travel toothpaste. Like, it's $1. But I'm like,
That works. That's perfect. Oh, much happier ending of that story than I was thinking.
I have some quotes written down. Like, the doctor told me not to smoke in the morning, which I guess the doctor's like, you can smoke anytime, just don't smoke in the morning. But he's like, the doctor told me not to smoke in the morning, but I'm too excited. He throws the matches everywhere, like when he's about to regress the guy under hypnosis.
When they're in the hotel and he's like, oh yeah, I could definitely help you find your husband, when she's like looking for him, and he's like, I know how it feels when you're waiting for your wife to apologize, and you're like, what the fuck?
The guy
that was
lets her upstairs. Like, she could be a stranger or a murderer, but like, just a pretty blonde lady in the 40s. Like, guy doesn't think anything of it, but like, yeah. Oh, you want to apologize to your husband? I know how much I want my wife to apologize to me when she's a bitch
right
to me.
in.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, what? It was like, so he was like, oh yeah, like when a wife needs to apologize, she
Mhm.
needs to apologize. Like, well, I get it. And I was like, what? Okay, yeah, I guess it doesn't happen in my house. So
No,
like,
the weirdest thing.
it was so weird.
On the inverse of that, like, she is nothing but like, she's so loving of him. She's just like, I couldn't feel this way about a man who was better, who committed murder. Like, what? Like, I know myself. I would not love a murderer, and I love you. You can't be a murderer. Like, it's kind of like a Letty the Dom. Like, I'm not ready to die. Like, you can't die because I'm not ready. It's like, well, that's
Yeah,
not how things work. Like, you could
that's
just love a guy
definitely
you
not.
think is not a murderer, but like, he might be a murderer.
He definitely might have murdered. He might have murdered before. He might. Yeah. And he was in the war, so he was definitely murdering people. Like, I mean, I get that that's like a
But that's for
fluid,
God and country. Yeah.
like that's like a very fluid thing. But like he has blood on his hands at some point, right? He was in the army.
Sure.
So,
Then they have the dream sequence we talked about before, the Dali dream sequence, where there's all kinds of crazy
which is
visuals, and there's
incredible.
like the dance, and there's
Incredible.
a woman going around kissing people, and there's like the roof, but we find out it's the ski. She's like, oh, this doctor used to write all the time in his books about how skiing helps like regression. It's like, wait, what?
No. They mentioned that before because the other doctors are bitching about it. Edwards was like a newfangled doctor that would constantly take his patients to go like play tennis and like do all this other shit. Like they like alluded to this earlier.
Okay, because the alluding early comes back because the guy's like, I don't know who this guy is. I've never met him before. And like, eventually, that's how it gets found out. But okay, that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
then she's like, okay, we got to go skiing because that's probably where he took you. And this dude
Yeah.
is freaked out. He's like, what happens if I do it again? She's like, you're not going to kill me. You love me.
Sure. Cool. And he already like almost murdered the assistant with the fucking razor blade coming downstairs at night too.
Yep.
So
So then there's like the ski tracks in the snow, which is both like good CGI considering it's like almost 80 years ago and also
oh
just
my
like
god. Yeah.
corny CGI. But then Bond has done this before. We've seen this in other movies. Like we've had Roman on a snowmobile, but we've never had like a chase through skiing, like a skiing like down a mountain. Like that's pretty Fast and Furious.
It is, and I was thinking that she gets triggered into thinking about this by the kids sledding, and I was thinking about like Roman on the door being dragged across the ice because that's like as close to sledding as we've gotten too. You're right. We've never had like actual skiing, and that would be. I think James Bond kind of like took it.
And I think that whatever one he did it in was not good. They also, they did it in like Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh yeah,
In the beginning of
that's true.
Triple X, Return of Xander Cage, which one day we will cover on the show for a Vin Diesel lap, like he skis down a mountain in the jungle where there's no snow, but he still wears skis. Like it's crazy. Like they've done it elsewhere, but I guess maybe it's not enough, not vehicle enough for us. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
not fast enough. We would need like motorized skis. I guess snowmobile, right? Like that's just that's what we got. So
Yeah,
kind
I
of
just
makes
want more.
sense. I agree. We need more snow. We just had the whole fucking ice one in Russia with with the submarine. We need more snow. Fast and Furious. I think.
Well, we've talked about we don't really have water either. Like we've done little water, but like we're mostly just on land.
Yeah, we've had Tej with the boats, and definitely had some other boat things in Miami. But like Yeah, you're right. Not a lot of water, not a lot of snow.
We're going to outer space ostensibly, right? So like,
What if they go like jet skiing on the moon or on Mars?
would love it. Mars rover.
Yeah, Mars, but it's dragging a it's like, and there's water. They find water, confirm life on Mars, and just jet ski away into the sunset.
I'm into it.
Cool.
My favorite, my favorite moment in this movie, though, two cops looking at a picture of Ingrid Bergman, and they literally draw eyeglasses on the picture with a pencil, and they're like, "Oh my god, we know her." It's like, how could you? Like, I got hair blindness, but you guys are cops. Like, how do you not recognize her without drawing like caricaturist eyeglasses on this picture? Like, I was like, this is amazing.
To their credit, every fucking man and woman in this time in that hotel lobby had like the exact same hat on, the exact same coat on, and like the same hairstyle. So like it's like color, like the shape is all the same. So it's very very hard. Like when they were walking through the hotel
but also
lobby,
like again, like the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, like you can't recognize her with glasses or without glasses, right? Like
yeah, true. It's like one of those moments, like when you have a movie and somebody's wearing like a bad disguise and they like take their glasses off. Everybody's like, "Oh shit, it's them!" And you're like, "Yeah, dude, we all." It's like they have a very distinct face. Like
it's a Clark Kent Superman thing, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But we eventually find out that this guy is so freaked out because he, when he was little, slid down a banister.
Just gruesome.
And then accidentally kicks his brother onto like would have to be the sharpest spikes in the world, like kind of spiky guard posts outside their like apartment building or whatever.
It's like a fence, like a fence rail.
Yeah.
But like the old like wrought iron ones that like come to a point and like just impales his brother.
Yeah, his brother's sitting at the bottom of the banister. This kid, who grows up to be John Valentine, slides down the banister, kicks the brother, who flies into the air and stomach on the spikes. And it's like, oh god. But then we find out that the doctor died there too, and so like he actually was dead, but they found out that it's a murder because he had a bullet in his back. So this guy who like
so they think that so he's like, okay, he fell off the precipice while he was skiing. That's what they like come to the conclusion to. So they're like, look, the body's gonna be at the bottom of this like ravine or whatever. Go find it. I didn't murder him. He's down there. It's cool. And the cops are like, cool, we found the body, no big deal. Gregory, Peck, and Ingrid Bergman are like, cool, we're gonna make out a little bit. And then they're like, but there's a bullet in his back.
You're going to prison. And he's like, uh-oh. Ingrid Bergman's like, something's up. And she goes back and talks to the guy who took over.
Well, she like yells a lot. Like in court, like she just like goes kind of mad about trying to get him out.
But this guy Murchison was like, knew Edwards slightly. And she's like, knew Edwards, knew. You said you didn't know him. And then that's when he pulls out a gun like, you caught me. But then like, she talks her way out of murder.
You can't skip over that part. It's incredible.
Well, he says to her, you're an excellent analyst, Dr. Edwards, but a rather stupid woman. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. So she comes down. She's like, I know you fucking killed him. You shot him in the back. You fucking lied about it. Your ass is going to jail. And he's like, wait a minute. And like, he's reaching in the drawer the whole time. I'm like, he's pulling out a fucking gun. He's finding his gun. And she's like, they're going to go find the gun up on the hill where you shot him from. And he's like, psych, it's right here. And she's just like, big dicks it down. By the way, this is my vote for the most Letty moment of the movie. That she's just staring down the gun barrel and is like, fuck you, you won't do it. And just like, totally lets it happen.
Which in the dream, it was like a steering wheel, which is also or just a wheel of some kind, which is very Fast and Furious. That they drop the wheel, but the wheel is actually a revolver, which I'm like, kind of a stretch, but like I can kind of see where you. But like this guy is also like going along. It's like, yes, that does sound like me. Oh, it does sound like I murdered the guy. Well, guess what? I did murder the guy. It's like, oh, okay.
And he was right, and she was right that he wouldn't shoot her, and just fucking walks out of the office like your ass is going to jail, and that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yep.
I thought she was going to get her face blown off. So, okay, so two things. Two things that I thought that this movie was going to do at the end there. One, she was going to get her face blown off. Because that was, like, the most obvious. It was like, you should just kill her, because now you're setting it up like he won't. He should have been like, psych, and bang. That's it. That would have been, like, she's like, you won't shoot me. He's like, I won't, and just did it. And two, I was ready for him to pull the gun out and be like, finally, you figured it out. You're recovered. and like it would have been her story the whole time, right?
Ooh.
I was waiting for the Shutter Island moment of that. I was convinced the whole time that she was the patient and they were walking her through it.
I like that. Yeah, but I feel like this is too. If this is the first psychoanalysis movie or whatever, it's like that's a little like you can't put a hat on a hat, right? Like it's like, oh no, like she's just solving it. Plus, I think in the end, like you want a happy ending, kind of, but
that's what. But I mean, like I was like, if they would have done that to me at the end, I was like, this would have been. I would have known about this movie, right?
Hitchcock, you truly are the master of suspense.
Yeah, like I would have been like, oh fuck, you did it. But this would have been like one of the biggest movies of all time, I think, if they would have had the Shutter Island twist at the end.
It would have been like Twilight Zone, where it's like that woman like is under wrapped, like she's all covered up her face, and like, oh my god, we're so sorry, we couldn't fix your face, and like it's a beautiful woman. They all take their face off, they're all pigs. It's like, oh my god, it was a twist all along, right? It's like that kind of
exactly.
Any other thoughts? Any other notes about this movie?
No, I thought it was really good, and I think you guys should check it out. Even just for the Salvador Dali theme, like that's worth the watch alone, just because it's like so weird and interesting, and it's such an early time.
It's not that easy to find. Like I don't think this is really streaming anywhere. You might have to like. No. This was the Blu-ray that actually was number 1,000 in my collection. Apparently, I looked it up because I was like, I think I own this one, but I'm not sure. It was like number 1,000. I was like, hey, pretty cool.
Fancy pants.
Yeah, it was in the Criterion Collection. Shout out to our friend Liam. Who had the now defunct Criterion Crack podcast. He would have gotten there eventually. This is number 136 that went out of print, and then they reprinted it 2012 or something. So
cool.
You can buy it if you want. Originally was going to be titled Hidden Impulse. That was Hitchcock's name for it. But studio secretary Ruth Rickman said, we should call it Spellbound. And then it tested well, and then it got Spellbound. So shout out to Ruth Rickman.
I like it.
The snow in the skiing scene was actually cornflakes, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is cool.
Both Ingrid Bergman and Gregory Peck were married to others at the time, but they had a brief affair. Their secret relationship became public when Peck confessed to Brad Darrick of People in 1987, 5 years after Ingrid Bergman died, which is kind of a dick move. Like, hey, she's dead, but like her family's still alive. Like, hey, by the way, like we banged around a little bit back then. It's like, that's not your story to tell.
No, that's not your story to tell. Definitely not. Like, and just because she died doesn't mean it's okay to tell it now. Like, what the fuck?
Quote, all I can say is that I had a kind of fiery love for her, and I think that's where I ought to stop. I was young, she was young. We were involved for weeks in close and intense work.
This goes back to my theory that like everybody that Paul Walker was on a set with, he probably hooked up with at some point. And Zac Efron too. You're 3 months in isolation or whatever shooting a movie. Things happen.
Any other notes or any other thoughts, or you want to watch the trailer?
Oh, they call some guy Bob McNutt with spiked hair. I like that. That was good. But that's about it. No, that's it.
So the trailer is Spellbound, official trailer, number 1, Gregory Peck movie, 1945 HD. It is from our friend, Movie Clips Classic Trailers. It's got 95,000 views. I've not pre-watched this, but I can't imagine that this is not it. So
whenever you're ready, I'm loaded up and queued up.
3, 2, 1, play. It starts out with the overture music, right?
And the birds.
Oh, there's Hitchcock right there.
That's him? Oh, yeah, that is him.
Oh, I think I've read that he uses this, that he puts himself in the trailer twice. Like, look, I'm just a normal guy.
A woman who, because of her consuming love for this man, gambles everything.
It was just really nice to watch an old-timey movie that's like so beautifully shot in like 4:3 in black and white. Like it was just like, oh yeah.
The lighting is fucking incredible too, dude. So good.
Hitchcock.
Yeah.
These are some of the clues in the motion picture which bears.
Wow, they just laid this wholly out for you, huh? Wow. I was laughing with Rachel. Some guy painted that sign just to do that for one scene.
Well, Selznick is the producer, but yeah, like that's maybe a little bit of ego trip, right?
No, but I'm saying like somebody like fully made that sign for the scene of the movie, and it was like 0.1 seconds. It's like gone.
Yeah. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Peck.
They're even skiing at the end. Okay, cool.
The skiing is great.
I take it this is your first honeymoon.
Oh.
I mean, it would be if it were.
Your first honeymoon? Oh yeah, because they pretend they were married. I thought that might not have been in the movie. I was like, is there deleted scenes in this shit?
God, the funny thing is that like you can't tell really at all like what the tone of this movie is.
Nope. This could definitely be like a full horror movie. This could be a thriller. It could be a love movie for sure.
Until it says most suspenseful achievement. But yeah, it's just okay.
They have the razor blade. Yeah, he's in it again. There you go.
Alfred Hitchcock, the famous director, whom you are not likely to forget. After you see
So they put him in, they like pointed him out in the trailer.
Yeah, don't forget this guy.
Yeah. Wow. The music is so weird for the tone of it, right?
Yeah.
So weird.
A shout out to Jerry Goldsmith, who was inspired by it, right? So, yeah. Joe, the letterbox game, we are going to go... Actually, first we have to do the other thing. So, for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road, the most logged film on Letterboxd, has been seen by 672,000 people, okay?
672.
672. Spellbound, 1945, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Ingrid Bergman, Gregory Peck, and Michael Chekhov, has been seen by how many people?
Got to take into account the printing of it. It's hard to stream. It's old, but it's Hitchcock. Fuck. I'm going to go 42,000.
Gotta go lower.
Okay. 27,000.
You're so very close. 26,159. 26,159. Like, it is Hitchcock, but it is old.
Yep.
It's also one of the lesser Hitchcock kind of... Like, I think it's probably like upper mid-tier, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a super Hitchcock historian, but...
Same.
26,159. So, Joe, out of those people, average rating of 3.66, most common a 4, then a 3.5, then a 3. How many people put this in their top 4?
2 max. 2.
Gotta go way higher.
Really? 15.
Higher.
25?
Higher.
43 and I'm done.
51. 51 people have this in their top 4 all time.
That's way more than I thought. Wow.
So we're going to Abby Thompson at Rook46 on Letterboxd. This is the most underrated Hitchcock movie watched this year on May 16th. 5 stars.
Okay.
So Abby Thompson has this as her number 4 movie of all time. Number 1 is the movie you thought Gregory Peck was in.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, James Stewart.
Okay.
Number 2, the final part of what is considered by many to be their favorite movie trilogy of all time.
The Return of the Jedi.
No, but you are so close in words.
The Empire. Wait, it goes Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes
Back. No. You have that's the right order. Wrong franchise, but you're so close in words. What you just said, change one word.
Return of the Batman. What's Return of the?
Yeah. What is it? What is it? The Return of the what?
Fuck.
There's a thing before it: the Return of the blank. It won more Oscars than I think any other movie at the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Came out about 20 years ago almost.
Return of the what? Not Jurassic Park. No Oscars. Return of the something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a trilogy, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Return of the King? Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
I got there. Okay.
And then number 3 is a movie that Mike and I spoke about this year for one of our podcasts, which fits not at all, but also kind of. So if you think about It's a Wonderful Life, Spellbound, they're both like love stories at their core. This is another love story that Mike and I spoke about on a different podcast this year.
I'm guessing it's a Tom Cruise movie.
Nope.
Tom Hanks movie.
Yep. Love story.
You've Got Mail.
You got it.
Nice. Wow, dude, I only needed one hint from... Okay, cool.
So we've got It's a Wonderful Life, The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, You've Got Mail, and Spellbound. I would say, like, in terms of Tom Hanks' love story, it's either that or Sleepless in Seattle. Like, those are just the 2, right? So
Forrest Gump?
I wouldn't... No, I would give you different clues about that altogether, but also...
I know.
Boy,
I know.
boy.
I used deduction to figure out that you were not talking about Forrest Gump on that one.
Also, her most recent movie is Cape Fear, which was the movie that Gregory Peck is second most known for. He's like 7th billed in that, so pretty exciting. Shout out to Abby Thompson, Rook46 on Letterboxd.
Shout out to Abby Thompson. Yeah, that was a pretty nice. That was a well spread out top 4. I think it's a little bit of everything there.
Yeah. Next episode on Friday, we are doing 1966's film Seconds by John Frankenheimer. I forgot. We've already covered a John Frankenheimer movie on this podcast. Last Lap, a movie that came out 32 years after Seconds, which is a crazy time jump. We covered Ronin with Robert De Niro, was also done by John Frankenheimer. He did the 1966's movie Seconds, which by all intents and purposes is also great. I think you can view this for free on CBS All Access or probably through a CBS All Access on Amazon Prime trial. Spellbound, a little bit harder to find. This one is out there, more accessible from what I understand. I've not looked for it yet because we don't have to watch it yet. So, but if you want to watch along, I don't know what it's about. Hopefully amnesia, hopefully memory loss. Seconds by John Frankenheimer, director of Ronin.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about anything?
No, that was a good one. I liked Spellbound. I think you guys should watch it, especially if you're Hitchcock fans or if you're Salvador Dali fans. But it was actually a very good movie.
Yeah, like I had no idea Dali was involved in movies at all.
Same. Yeah, they're very, very weird. And all the fast actions were cool too. You did good with the facts. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com. And come back on Friday as we return to the John Frankenheimer well for seconds. Come back for seconds.
After Thanksgiving, come back for seconds.
I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And we'll tell you all about it
when we see you again.